Good day, everyone. We are the Group 1. Today, we are gathered to delve into an important and thought provoking topic, the sexual self. This discussion aims to deepen our understanding of how sexuality shapes our identity, influences our behaviors, and plays a vital role in our overall well being. Let us approach this topic with openness, respect, and curiosity as we explore the many dimensions of the sexual self. First, let's discuss about the development of secondary sex characteristics and the human reproductive system and development of the sexual organs in the embryo and the fetus. The development of the human reproductive system starts early in the womb, although the gonad starts to form about a month after conception. The major growth and changes in the reproductive organs continue during pregnancy. After birth, these systems remain mostly inactive until the child reaches puberty, which then triggers further development and secondary sex characteristics, like voice changes, body hair, and breast development. Next is the development of sexual organs in the embryo and fetus. In early development, all embryos have the potential to become either male or female. Female is considered the default path because, in the absence of certain signals, the embryo will naturally develop female sexual characteristics. The presence of the Y chromosome, specifically the SRI gene on it, causes the embryo to develop male characteristics instead. For the role of the SRI gene acts like a switch. If it's present, it turns on the process that causes undifferentiated gonads to become testes, which then produce hormones that guide male sexual development. If the SRI gene is not present, as in typical female development, the gonads become ovaries, and the body follows the pathway for female development.
Puberty happens differently for boys and girls, but the hormones that cause these changes work in a similar way. Everyone starts puberty at a different time, but the order in which changes happen is usually the same for boys and girls. These changes lead to adult bodies and the ability to reproduce. Puberty can be divided into 5 stages. In each stage, boys and girls go through different changes. For girls, puberty usually starts between ages 8 and 11. The ovaries begin working and making hormones, but there aren't any visible changes yet. For boys, it usually starts between ages 9 and 12. You won't see much change outside, but inside, the male hormones are starting to work. Some boys might start growing a bit taller at this time. In girls, stage 2 usually happens between the ages of 8 and 14. The first visible sign is breast development. Breast buds begins to form, and the nipples may feel tender and start to stick out. The area around the nipple called the areole becomes larger. Around this time, some girls may also start to grow pubic hair, which can be coarse and curly or fine and straight. Height and weight begin to increase, and the body starts to look rounder and curvier. For boys, this stage usually happens between the ages of 9 and 15. Their bodies begin to grow taller, and the shape starts to change as muscle tissue and fat develop. The areole, which is the darker skin around the nipple, gets darker and larger. The testicles and scrotum grow, though the penis usually doesn't change much yet. Small amount of pubic hair may start to appear at the base of the penis. Girls may be between ages 9 and 15 in this stage. The breasts keep developing, and pubic hair starts to grow and become darker and coarser. Some girls may notice white discharge from the vagina, which is a normal part of development. For some, this is when the first period, also called as menarche, may occur. In boys, this stage usually happens between ages 11 and 16. The penis begins to grow longer, and the testicles and scrotum continue to get bigger. Pubic hair becomes darker, thicker, and starts to spread. The voice starts to deepen, and it may crack or squeak as it changes. Boys also begin to grow taller, gain more muscle, and may notice the first signs of facial hair, usually on the upper lip. Girls may be between ages 10 and 16 in this age. The area around the nipple gets darker and sticks out more. Pubic hair looks more adult like, and the body keeps changing as it becomes more rounded and curvy. If it didn't happen in stage 3, menarche should start now. Ovulation may begin, but it might not occur every month. It's possible to have regular periods even if ovulation doesn't happen each cycle. For boys, this stage happens between ages 11 and 17. The penis becomes wider, adult like, and the testicles and scrotum continue to grow. Pubic hair becomes coarser and spreads more, and hair might grow around the anus. Facial and underarm hair increase, and the skin becomes oilier. The voice continues to deepen, and the first signs of fertility may appear, typically around age 15, though this can vary widely among individuals. This is the final stage of puberty. In girls, it can happen between ages 12 and 19. They reach their adult height, have regular periods, and their breasts and pubic hair are fully developed. For boys, it happens between 14 and 18. They also reach their adult height, and their genitals and pubic hair look like an adult's. Many boys now need to shave, and some may keep growing into their early 20s.
So moving on to the erogenous zones of the body. The term erogenous zones gained popularity in the 1960s and 70s. So this described the areas of the body that are specifically sensitive to touch and stimulation. So these zones have high concentration of nerve endings, making them more responsive to both pain and pleasure. So the common erogenous zones includes the lips, the neck, the ears, the inner thigh, and genitals. And we should remember that everyone's sensitivity is unique, so that's why it may differ from yours, and why that's why we need to be careful in touching parts of the body. And next is the term highly sensitive means these areas of the body have high number of sensory receptors or nerve endings that react to stimulus. Next, please. So now that we understand what erogenous zones are and how they relate to sensory stimulation and pleasure, let's take a closer look at the skin, which is our largest organ and the primary medium for erotic stimulus. So there are two types of erogenous zones found in the skin. The first one is the non-specific type. So the non-specific type is this includes it is the usual haired skin. It composed of density of dermal nerve networks and hair follicle networks. It produces amplified sensation, and the felt sensation is the exaggerated form of tickle. So the non-specific type are examples are sides and back of the neck, the armpit, underarm, and the sides of the chest. And the other type is the specific type. So these areas are located in the mucocutaneous regions of the body where mucous membrane meet the skin. So they are designed for acute perception, meaning they are biologically more sensitive to touch and other stimuli. An example of these specific erogenous zones include the genital regions, which such as the prepuce or the foreskin, the penis, the vulva, which is the external female genitalia, and along with the perianal skin, lips, and nipples. So these are the naturally contain a high concentration of sensory receptor, making them key players in erotic and sensual experiences. Next, please. Now that we identified the specific erogenous zones, let's move on to the highly sensitive areas and their unique roles in the human body. First is the prepuce. It is the retractable fold of skin covering the tip of the penis. The non-technical name is the foreskin. So it also similar to fold covering for the clitoris, which is the female sexual organ that provides pleasure and it's located in the vulva. And next is the penis. It is a male erectile organ of copulation by which urine and semen are discharged from the body. So the penis plays a dual role in both reproduction and urination. And next is the female external genitalia. So the mons pubis, it is a fatty area over the pubic bone. The clitoris, it is a highly sensitive organ located at the front of the vaginal opening. The labia majora and labia minora, which are the outer and inner lips of the vulva. The vaginal introitus, which is the entryway to the vaginal canal. And lastly, the hymen, a thin membrane that partially covers the vaginal opening. And other parts of this are the perianal skin, which refers to the area of the body that surrounds the anus. So ang kanisya, mo ni siya ang very sensitive and vulnerable sa mga injury or kanang dali ma-scratch. And next is the lips are soft, movable, and responsive to touch, making a common site of intimacy, especially during kissing. And lastly, the nipples, which are not only sensitive to touch but interestingly connect neurologically to the same brain regions of the genitals. So we should take note that individual sensitivity varies. That's why what feels good for one person may not for good for another. And in psychology, our past experiences and mindset also shape how we respond to touch, which is high sensitive areas may feel unpleasant to others or it linked to negative memories or beliefs, or that's why it needs a consent, especially if couple or kanang mag-make of love. Next.
So today I'll be discussing the human sexual response cycle. This presentation is based on research by Masters and Johnson, two pioneers in the study of human sexuality. Understanding this cycle helps us improve relationships, promote intimacy, and address sexual health concerns. Next, please. Ay, pwede balik siya. So, what is the sexual response cycle? The sexual response cycle refers to the physical and emotional changes that occur when someone is sexually aroused. This includes activities like intercourse or masturbation. Knowing how the body responds during each phase helps couples improve communication and also provides insights into any sexual dysfunction. Keep in mind that everyone experiences the cycle differently. There's no perfect timing or one size fits all pattern. Next, please. So, the research background. In the late 1950s, researchers William Masters and Virginia Johnson began studying human sexual behavior. They're well known for developing the four-stage model of sexual response, which remains widely used in sexual health, psychology, and medicine today. Their work helped break many taboos and brought scientific understanding to a topic that had long been ignored. So, the four phases of the human sexual response cycles, the Masters and Johnsons identify four main stages in the sexual response cycle. The first is the excitement, second is the plateau, third is the orgasm, and fourth is the resolution. Now let's explore each phase and what typically happens in the body. Next, please. So, the phase one, the excitement phase, is the beginning of sexual arousal. In this phase, muscle tension increases, heart rate speeds up, and breathing becomes faster. Blood flows increases to the genitals. For women, this leads to swelling of the clitoris and vaginal lubrication. For men, it leads to an erection and secretion of lubricating fluid. This stage can last from a few minutes to several hours depending on the person. The phase 2, the plateau phase, is when arousal intensifies. The body continues to build toward orgasm. In women, the vagina becomes darker in color and the clitoris becomes highly sensitive. In men, the testicles pull up closer to the body. Breathing, heart rate, and muscle tension increase. You might also see muscle spasms in the feet, face, or hands. This phase prepares the body for orgasm. The phase 3, orgasm, is the peak of the sexual response cycle and the shortest phase. It involves powerful involuntary muscle contractions and the release of sexual tension. In women, the vaginal muscles and uterus contract rhythmically. In men, these contractions results in ejaculation. Blood pressure, heart rate, and breathing reach their highest points. Some people may even develop a sex flush across their body. Phase 4, resolution. The body gradually returns to its normal state. Swollen and erect body parts go back to their usual size and color. This phase is often marked by a sense of relaxation, intimacy, and even fatigue. Men usually need a refractory period after orgasm before they become aroused again. This can last minutes to hours depending on the person. Women, however, may be able to return to the orgasm phase and experience multiple orgasms. So, the key takeaways. To wrap up, the human sexual response cycle is a complex but natural process. Understanding the phases can help individuals and couples improve their intimacy and manage any sexual concerns. It's important to remember that everyone is different. Timing, intensity, and emotional response vary from person to person.
Now, moving on to the next topic that combines biology, psychology, and human connection. It's about the sex and the brain. Most people associate sex with the body, but we often overlook the brain's powerful role in driving sexual thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. So let's break it down and explore what's really going on up there. At its core, sex is a biological process meant for reproduction, uniting genetic material to create offspring. But human sexuality has evolved beyond that. It now involves complex behaviors and emotional needs like seeking intimacy, pleasure, and even forming relationships. What makes this possible is the brain, which not only processes these experiences, but also motivates and rewards us through chemicals and neural circuits. That's why we say the brain is actually the most powerful sex organ. The brain plays several key roles during sex. First is sensory translation. When your skin is stimulated, the brain translates those nerve signals into pleasurable sensations. It decides what feels good. Second is motor control. It also controls the physical actions, the nerves and muscles involved in arousal and orgasm. Third is cognitive function. Sexual thoughts and fantasies come from the cerebral cortex, the part of your brain used for thinking, imagination, and reasoning. Fourth is emotional processing. Your emotions, like love and attachment, are rooted in the limbic system. This part is heavily involved in forming emotional connections. And then lastly is hormonal control. The brain signals hormone release, which influences everything from arousal to long-term sexual behavior. Now let's take a look where Now let's take a look at where hormone regulation starts. The hypothalamus, found at the base of your brain, is a command center for many bodily functions, including sex. It takes emotional input from the limbic system and tells the pituitary gland what to do. The pituitary gland then releases several hormones that directly affect sexual development, arousal, and motivation. This brain hormone connection is essential for driving sexual development, arousal, motivation, and emotional bonding. Without this brain hormone partnership, our sexual systems wouldn't function properly. Now let's talk about the key hormones involved. First is oxytocin. It is often called the love hormone. It is released during orgasm and helps promote trust, closeness, and bonding with a partner. Next is FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone. It is crucial for ovulation in women. Interestingly, studies show women tend to be more sexually active during their fertile window. And then we have LH, or luteinizing hormone, which works with FSH and helps regulate the ovaries in females and stimulates testosterone production in males, which is a major driver of sexual desire. Next is vasopressin, which is mainly active in men and increases during arousal. It's believed to enhance sexual motivation and may also play a role in emotional bonding. Finally, estrogen and progesterone both influence female sexual behavior. Estrogen boosts motivation while progesterone tends to suppress it. So these hormones create a kind of natural rhythm in sexual desire. So to wrap it all up, sex involves more than just the body. It's a full experience that includes the mind, emotions, and hormones. The brain is the master controller, processing pleasure, coordinating our physical actions, and releasing hormones that create desire and intimacy. By understanding how the brain influences sexuality, we can better appreciate the complexity of human connection and behavior.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Aryan, and I'll be discussing a very interesting subtopic under the sexual self, which is understanding the chemistry of lust, love, and attachment. We often hear people say love is in the air or it's all in the heart, but in reality, love happens in the brain. It's a powerful mix of chemicals that influence how we feel, behave, and make decisions in relationships. According to anthropologist Helen Fisher of Rutgers University, the process of falling in love happens in three stages, and each stage involves different sets of chemicals. These stages are lust, attraction, and attachment. First, lust. Lust is the initial stage and is driven by physical attraction. It's when we feel the desire to seduce or be seduced by someone. This stage is fueled by hormones testosterone and estrogen. While lust can spark interest and excitement, it doesn't guarantee lasting love. It's just the beginning. Second, attraction. This is when things get more intense. You start to crave your partner's presence, feel butterflies, and imagine your life together. This stage is influenced by three major brain chemicals. The norepinephrine increases energy, alertness, and can even make you lose your appetite or sleep. It's like your body is on high alert because of love. Dopamine. This is the reward chemical. It's linked to motivation, goal seeking behavior. It makes your partner seem exciting or special. Serotonin. This chemical is known for causing obsessive thinking. Studies show that people who are newly in love may have lower serotonin levels, similar to those who have obsessive compulsive disorder. That's why we often say people in love can stop thinking about their partner. And finally, attachment. This is the stage of commitment. It's when the emotional bond deepens and couples may begin to plan for the future, whether that's getting married or starting a family. Attachment keeps relationships stable and lasting. To wrap up, our experiences of loss, love, and attachment aren't just random emotions. They're deeply rooted in our brain chemistry, shaped by hormones and neurotransmitters that influence how we form and maintain connections. I hope this gave you a clear understanding of how our sexual self is not just emotional, but also deeply chemical and biological in nature. Now let's move on to the next topic to be discussed by Aisha.
So, moving on to the physiological aspect of sexual desire and gender difference on sexual desire. First, let me explain what is the difference between sexual desire and sex drive. So, sexual desire refers to the psychological and emotional experiences of wanting to engage in sexual activity. It is primarily a subjective feeling and may or may not be accompanied by physical arousal, such as penile erection in males or vaginal lubrication in females. This means that someone can feel sexually interested without necessarily experiencing any physical changes in their body. Sexual desire is influenced by a wide range of factors, including our physical thoughts, our emotions, our fantasies, our exposure to erotic content like movies, books, or image, and social or environmental contexts. And it is a more complex and internal process compared to sex drive, which is more biologically based. Sex drive is often seen as an extensive or hormonal urge for sexual activity, while sexual desire involves cognitive and emotional components and can exist independently of hormonal changes. Although sexual desire is not entirely dependent on hormones, research suggests that hormones still facilitate its development. For instance, during childhood, around the age of 9, some children begin to experience early forms of sexual desire due to adrenal gland activity and hormone secretion. However, these desires are typically not associated with a motivation to pursue sexual activity. That motivation generally becomes stronger after puberty, when there are major increases in gonadal hormones such as estrogen for females and testosterone for males. Additionally, there are notable gender differences in how sexual desire is experienced and expressed, such as cultural, social, and even political factors can shape these differences. Research has found that women tend to associate sexual desire more strongly with emotional intimacy and personal relationships. In contrast, men are more likely to engage in casual sexual behavior and may not always require emotional connection for sexual interest. And some theorists explain that these gender differences through evolutionary psychology. According to this perspective, early human females had to be more selective in choosing a sexual partner to ensure reproductive success and the survival of offspring. Males, however, did not surface the same level of reproductive risk, which may have led to the development of stronger or more frequent sexual desire in males over time.
Good day, everyone. I am Joanna, and I will be discussing the physiological mechanism of sexual behavior, motivations, and the diversity of sexual behavior. So, this topic explores how the brain influences sexual behavior and motivation, as well as the different ways people experience sexual attraction. It explains that sexual behavior is driven by both biological and emotional factors, and that sexual orientation is more complex than once believed. Next slide. So the limbic so the limbic system is a group of brain structures involved in emotions, motivation, and behavior, and several of its parts are especially important for sexual motivation. The hypothalamus plays a key role in regulating motivated behaviors, including hunger, thirst, and sexual activity. It helps control the body's response to sexual stimuli and hormonal signals. The amygdala is responsible for processing emotions and motivation, which influence sexual interest and arousal. Another important part is the nucleus accumbens, often called as the brain's pleasure system. It is involved in the experience of reward and pleasure and helps reinforce behaviors that feel good, including sexual behavior. Together, these parts of the limbic system work to influence sexual desires and motivation. The diversity of sexual behavior highlights the wide range of ways people experience sexual attraction. Sexual orientation refers to a person's emotional and sexual attraction to the same sex, opposite sex, or both, and it is not limited to reproduction. While same sex desire is often associated with lesbian, gay, or bisexual individuals, research shows that even heterosexual people may occasionally experience these desires. However, such experiences do not necessarily mean a change in sexual orientation. On the other hand, research shows that lesbian, gay, and bisexual orientations are marked by strong and lasting same sex desires that stay stable over time, showing that sexual orientation is complex and unique for each person. And that concludes our presentation about the topic, the sexual self. Before we end, we'd like to leave you with a few questions to reflect on and answer. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a great day ahead.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hi, guys.
Thank you guys.